It was the dawn of an era unlike any other, one that no philosopher, scientist, or dreamer could have ever foreseen. Humanity, teetering on the brink of self-destructs from decades of wars, environmental collapse, and bitter ideological struggles, stumbled upon the most inexplicable and transformative revelation in history. The supreme instrument of grand peace was a chicken. It started quietly, an odd series of coincidences initially dismissed as laughable internet conspiracy fodder. "Hear me out," Jonah said, hunched over his laptop in the war-torn cafe in what had once been the bustling center of Chicago. He and his sister Mara were refugees of the most recent tech war, scavenging for scraps of connection and hope amidst the debris. "This isn't just some chicken. This thing, this bird, they're calling it Phoebe. People are saying it's, I don't know, special." Mara looked up from her stale bread with an eyebrow raised. "A chicken? Really? That's where we're putting our remaining faith now?" Jonah waved his hands, frustrated. "I'm serious. There are videos. She walks into these dangerous war zones, and people stop fighting. They literally lower their weapons and, I don't know, start talking, like talking, without yelling or murdering each other." Mara shook her head. She thought Jonah was losing it. But as he clicked on another grainy video, she found herself watching along in spite of herself. The footage was shaky. A journalist filming in what looked like the ruined outskirts of Caracas had captured two rival militias entrenched in a bloody standoff. Shouts of hatred ricocheted across the desolate street until a humble golden-brown hen stepped into view, strutting confidently between the barrels of assault rifles. And just like that, everything shifted. One by one, the fighters lowered their guns. Expressions softened, and someone in the crowd even started laughing lightly, the sound oddly contagious. Within minutes, soldiers were sitting cross-legged on the ground, their weapons forgotten, as if absorbed in some universal tranquility. The chicken, this strange, radiant chicken, pecked at the ground serenely, obliviously turning fear into calm, anger into something closer to understanding. Mara blinked. "That can't be real." "I thought so too," Jonah said. "But this isn't just one clip. There are others. Sudan, India, Australia. Phoebe is showing up everywhere, somehow, without warning, in precisely the worst of places." "What are you saying? The world's savior is a chicken?" Jonah hesitated. "I don't know what I'm saying, but people are starting to believe it. And, look, I know how stupid it sounds, but maybe we should find her. I mean, what else do we have left to lose?" The journey to track down Phoebe was harder than imagined. The world was broken. Communications were fragmented. Travel was hazardous. And it didn't help that Jonah kept trying to explain their reason for traveling to skeptical strangers. "I'm sorry, did you just say you're looking for a chicken?" grunted a guard at an improvised checkpoint. He towered over them, amused but incredulous. Jonah cleared his throat. "Not just a chicken. The chicken. Her name is Phoebe. She ends conflicts." He sounded exasperated and sincere all at once, which somehow only made the guard laugh. The guard shook his head. "Good luck with that." In truth, it felt like madness. Yet, as they traveled through borders and broken cities, they began to hear more whisperings. About villages where decades-old feuds had ended over the faint cluck of a bird. About heads of state who had reportedly killed peace talks, but suddenly reopened negotiations after Phoebe appeared. People spoke of her like a myth, a miracle, a quiet force that united when all else failed. When Mara and Jonah finally found her, hidden in an abandoned French vineyard-turned-refugee camp, they weren't sure what they expected. Would she glow, or speak, or perform some unearthly miracle? What they found was something startling in its ordinariness, a plump, average-sized chicken with soft golden feathers and a calm, curious demeanor. She glanced at them with an unassuming cluck as if to ask, "What took you so long?" "There's no way," Mara began, but then she saw it. A gathering of strangers around Phoebe, people who had every reason to hate or fear each other. A rival soldier offering an apple to a farmer whose land he had burned. A broken man weeping quietly into the embrace of his former enemy. They weren't doing these things because of the chicken, not directly. It wasn't magic. It was subtler than that. Phoebe just existed, and in her presence, for reasons no one could explain, humanity remembered something it had lost, how to look at one another and recognize an equal. "It's not her," Mara whispered. "It's us." Word of Phoebe spread like wildfire, faster than any doctrine or missile ever had. Researchers followed her, desperate to explain her biological or psychological uniqueness, but they came up empty-handed. She was just a chicken, they could swear by it, point to blood tests and scans. And yet governments fell silent. A summit convened at long last, one where all of humanity gathered not to fight, but to listen. Phoebe sat at the center, blinking slowly as world leaders leaned toward each other across tables, speaking in hushed tones, softening their voices as if not to startle her. No demand, no speech, no active intervention brought as much unity as her indifference. Some hailed her as divine, others as a symbol. Still others waved dismissive hands, calling her serendipity. It didn't matter what they believed. What mattered was that for the first time, humanity, with all its weapons and division, was finally watching the same small, peaceful creature. In silence. Together,